Why I always make mistakes. Leo always felt trapped in a world of unspoken thoughts and constant errors. His mind buzzed with ideas, but when it came to expressing them, words often tangled, leading to frustrating mistakes. He frequently wondered why I always make mistakes. A cloud of self-doubt often shadowed his every attempt at communication, making social interactions daunting. This persistent question, why I always make mistakes, haunted him, creating a paralyzing fear of judgment. He replayed conversations, dissecting every awkward pause and mispronounced word. It wasn't just about grammar, it was the entire process of forming coherent thoughts under pressure, which frequently seemed to elude his grasp. His shyness was a direct consequence of this cycle of errors. He longed to connect, to share his perspective, but the fear of saying the wrong thing, of sounding foolish, kept him isolated. Every potential interaction felt like an impossible hurdle, reinforcing his belief that he was simply not good at talking. One quiet evening, overwhelmed by this sense of inadequacy, Leo decided enough was enough. He yearned for a transformation, a way to bridge the gap between his inner world and external expression. He searched for answers, something more profound than mere grammar rules, a path to genuine communicative confidence. He realized his core problem wasn't just making mistakes, it was a fundamental misunderstanding of communication itself. He needed to learn not just what to say, but how to think and how to engage authentically. His current approach was clearly not working, necessitating a radical shift in perspective. His initial search for how to talk with anyone yielded generic advice that felt superficial. He needed a deeper, more organic method, something that would build his foundational skills from the ground up, not just offer quick fixes. This quest led him to an unexpected, yet powerful revelation. The epiphany came from an old, forgotten article about successful communicators. It emphasized the profound truth, why reading is so important. Reading, it argued, wasn't just about knowledge, it was about internalizing language patterns, understanding human psychology, and broadening one's conversational repertoire effortlessly. At first, Leo was skeptical. How could reading possibly teach him to speak with confidence? He associated reading with quiet contemplation, not dynamic conversation. Yet, the article persuasively argued that reading was the silent mentor, subtly shaping thought processes and expanding linguistic horizons dramatically. Driven by a flicker of hope, he decided to embark on an English study plan for talking, starting with English story reading. He chose simple, engaging narratives, hoping to absorb the language naturally. This felt less like a chore and more like an adventure, a gentle immersion into English. His first few stories were challenging. He frequently stopped to look up words, and understanding complex sentences felt like climbing a steep hill. Yet he persevered, captivated by the unfolding plots and characters. Each page turned was a small victory, a tiny step forward in his linguistic journey. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the stories began to weave their magic. Words he had looked up started reappearing, becoming familiar friends. Sentence structures that once seemed alien began to make intuitive sense. The beauty of the narratives pulled him deeper into the immersive experience of learning. He discovered that stories taught him far more than just vocabulary and grammar. They offered insights into human emotions, motivations, and interactions. He began to understand conversational nuances, the implied meanings behind dialogue, and the rhythm of natural English speech, which was truly transformative. The characters in the books became his silent teachers. He observed how to talk with anyone through their interactions, their conflicts, and their resolutions. He saw how they expressed joy, anger, sadness, and curiosity, providing a rich tapestry of real-life communication scenarios to learn from. He noticed the subtle art of small talk, the skillful way characters introduced new topics, and how they handled disagreements respectfully. These were practical lessons in communication, far more effective than any textbook explanation. Stories were offering a living laboratory for language acquisition. It dawned on him that mastering how to talk with anyone wasn't about memorizing phrases, it was about understanding people. Reading offered a window into diverse perspectives, cultivating empathy and broadening his understanding of social dynamics, essential components for meaningful interaction with others. Within the narratives, he unconsciously picked up specific talking tips. He noticed how thoughtful characters practiced active listening, paying close attention to what others said before responding. This simple observation was a revelation, demonstrating the power of truly hearing someone. He learned about empathy by experiencing the world through different characters' eyes. Understanding their struggles and triumphs helped him develop a deeper appreciation for diverse viewpoints. This newfound empathy was crucial for connecting with real people in his daily life more authentically. The consistent reading also started impacting his internal processes. He noticed his thoughts becoming clearer, more organized. The language he was consuming began to shape how to think and speak, making the transition from thought to spoken word feel less cumbersome, more fluid. He realized that thinking in English was a critical precursor to speaking fluently. Before, his thoughts were a chaotic mix. Now, as he read, he found himself naturally processing information and even forming responses internally in English, a significant step forward in his journey. He started consciously practicing how to think and speak by narrating his day in English, silently at first. Describing objects, actions, and observations helped him to organize his thoughts directly in the target language, bypassing the need for mental translation. Gradually, he moved from silent internal monologue to voicing his thoughts aloud, even if just to himself in his room. Describing his breakfast, outlining his plans for the day, or simply commenting on the weather in English became a regular, liberating exercise. The biggest hurdle remained: how to speak with people face to face. The comfort of his own room was one thing, but the unpredictability of live conversation felt terrifying. Yet, he knew consistent practice was the only way to bridge this gap effectively. He started small, practicing his newfound skills with low-stakes interactions. Ordering coffee, asking for directions, or making a simple comment to a shopkeeper became his testing ground. Each brief exchange, despite its imperfections, built his confidence incrementally. The fear of "why I always make mistakes" didn't vanish entirely, but its grip loosened significantly. He began to see each misstep not as a failure, but as a crucial learning opportunity, a sign that he was actively engaged in the process of growth. Instead of dwelling on errors, he quickly analyzed them, understood what went wrong, and then moved on. He consciously reframed mistakes as valuable feedback, essential for refining his language skills. This shift in mindset was truly revolutionary for his progress. His focus shifted from achieving perfect grammar to achieving fluent communication. He prioritized getting his message across, even if it meant a few grammatical errors. This allowed him to speak more spontaneously and with less self-censorship, making progress faster. This positive mindset was an unexpected byproduct of his reading and practice. The stories filled him with diverse ideas and a sense of possibility, making him more resilient in the face of challenges. He felt a newfound optimism about his English journey. Among the many, let me tell you, talking tips he absorbed, one stood out: asking open-ended questions. Instead of simple yes/no queries, he learned to formulate questions that invited detailed responses, encouraging deeper and more meaningful conversations with others. Another practical tip gleaned from his readings was the importance of finding common ground. Discovering shared interests or experiences provided an instant bridge for connection, making initial conversations feel natural and less forced, greatly reducing his apprehension. Maintaining appropriate eye contact also emerged as a powerful nonverbal talking tip. It conveyed confidence and engagement, making the other person feel heard and valued. This simple adjustment significantly improved the quality of his interactions, building rapport more effectively. His English study plan for talking was now a comprehensive daily routine. It wasn't just about passive learning anymore. It was an active, integrated approach combining input with output. He felt a sense of purpose and direction in his language journey. Every morning, he dedicated at least 30 minutes to English story reading, immersing himself in narratives. This consistent input fueled his vocabulary and understanding of natural sentence structures, forming the strong foundation for all his speaking efforts. In the afternoons, he allocated time for dedicated speaking practice. This involved everything from shadowing native speakers to recording himself speaking about various topics, actively honing his pronunciation and fluency, making significant, measurable progress. He set realistic, achievable goals for himself. Instead of aiming for perfection, he focused on incremental improvements, mastering a new set of idioms, holding a 5-minute conversation without pauses, or confidently asking a complex question in English. He diligently tracked his progress in a small notebook, noting down new words, interesting phrases, and instances where he successfully applied a talking tip. Celebrating these small victories motivated him to continue, reinforcing his commitment to the process. The transformation was undeniable. Weeks turned into months, and Leo, once timid and hesitant, began to feel a profound shift within himself. His internal voice grew stronger, his thoughts clearer, and his desire to connect with others became irrepressible. One bustling afternoon, he found himself at a community event, a place he would have meticulously avoided before. A group of people stood nearby, engaged in an animated discussion about a local art exhibition, a topic he actually knew something about. His old self would have immediately retreated, finding an excuse to escape the potential for awkwardness or error. The familiar pang of anxiety tightened his chest, but this time a new resolve, born from months of dedicated practice, asserted itself powerfully. He took a deep, steadying breath, consciously recalling all the "let me tell you" talking tips he had internalized. He reminded himself of the power of active listening and the importance of finding common ground, even in a fleeting moment. With a newfound sense of purpose, he approached the group. His heart still pounded, but he managed to initiate conversation, starting with a simple, genuine comment about one of the artworks. The words felt surprisingly natural, flowing effortlessly from his lips. He applied active listening, truly hearing what others said, asking follow-up questions that demonstrated genuine interest. He found common ground surprisingly quickly, connecting over shared admiration for a particular artist, making the conversation flow freely and organically. The conversation flowed, not perfectly, but genuinely. He made a couple of minor grammatical slips, but they didn't derail him. Instead, he simply corrected himself or rephrased, keeping the interaction going without missing a beat, feeling more confident. He felt a warmth spread through him, the genuine joy of connection. He was not just speaking English, he was truly talking with people, sharing ideas and forging a bond, something he had yearned for but never believed possible before this moment. The shock of his own newfound confidence was almost overwhelming. He, Leo, who always made mistakes, who dreaded speaking, was now engaging effortlessly. It was a testament to the power of his chosen English study plan for talking and his perseverance. He reflected on why reading is so important. It wasn't merely about vocabulary. Reading stories had subtly rewired his brain, familiarizing him with English thought patterns and conversational structures, making the spoken word feel intuitive, not translated. Every story he read had implicitly taught him sentence construction, idiomatic expressions, and the rhythm of natural English. It built an unconscious database of language, readily available when he needed to formulate his own thoughts and speak with others. Beyond language acquisition, reading had built his confidence indirectly. By exposing him to different worlds and ideas, it expanded his perspective, giving him more to talk about and a deeper understanding of the human experience, enriching his interactions greatly. English story reading was the cornerstone of his fluency. It had made learning enjoyable and sustainable, transforming what could have been a tedious academic endeavor into an exciting journey of discovery, proving that stories truly teach us best. The narratives provided context, emotion, and practical scenarios that textbooks simply couldn't. He learned how to think and speak naturally by observing how compelling characters navigated complex situations, making the abstract concepts of language tangible and relatable. And those "let me tell you" talking tips he gleaned from stories and deliberate practice were invaluable. They weren't abstract theories, but actionable strategies that he could immediately apply in real-life conversations, turning awkward silences into engaging dialogues. These practical, talking tips, like active listening, asking open-ended questions, and finding common ground, provided him with a clear framework for interaction. They empowered him to initiate conversations and navigate them smoothly, even when he felt a little nervous. His journey proved that consistent effort, coupled with the right approach, could truly transform anyone's speaking abilities. He had started from a place of profound self-doubt and, through sheer determination, had achieved remarkable communicative fluency. Now, the question why I always make mistakes had transformed into, how can I learn from this mistake? Errors were no longer sources of shame, but valuable stepping stones on his path to mastery, each one refining his language skills further. The joy of true connection, of being able to express himself authentically in English, was immeasurable. He could now confidently how to talk with anyone, sharing his thoughts, listening intently, and truly engaging in meaningful conversations without apprehension. So, if you're struggling with communication or English speaking, remember Leo's journey. Embrace English story reading, practice how to think and speak, utilize effective talking tips, and view every mistake as a crucial part of your incredible learning adventure.